Hello everyone, this is Alan. I'm a data science instructor in Clarusway. And in this video series, I will introduce large language models, which are quite popular today and affect everywhere, our lives, education, industry. And this is a brief demonstration of an example Clarusway session. And of course, there will be more details and examples in real-life sessions of the bootcamp. And we will not only make an introduction to large language models, but also we will inspect practical examples, and you will be able to develop your own scripts by OpenAI API in Python. Let's look at the outline and scope of the video series. First of all, we will understand the common terminology and the fundamentals of LLMs. Why are they powerful, popular, important? Then we will see the recent ones and comparative analysis of their performances. Next step will be GPT models. I think you all heard about ChatGPT, which is one of the AI language models developed by OpenAI. And GPT is actually an abbreviation of Generative Pre-trained Transformer. And ChatGPT is a specific application, an implementation of GPT architecture. In the second part, we will check the GPT models, we will inspect them, and then finally, we will have a practical session of GPT models, and we will write our own script in Python, and we will use OpenAI library. And at the end of this video series, I hope you will learn the fundamentals of large language models, particularly GPT models, and you will be able to develop your own application by using these GPT models. Okay, let's start. And the first question is, what is a large language model? Simply, they are powerful AI systems which can understand and generate human language. Okay, one of the biggest differences of large language models is that they can capture contextual dependencies in language. Also, they can understand the complex semantics and they can generate human-like text. It is very important. Another important aspect of large language models is the scale, size of the trained data. They are trained on a massive amount of data from internet, books, articles, websites, blogs, forums, Wikipedia. In other words, billions of words. That is quite important. And as I said, large language models are pre-trained on huge amount of data. And thanks to this process, they can learn the language patterns, they can capture the contextual relationships. Then, after this process, they can be fine-tuned on specific tasks. So that is a big advantage and very important. I will elaborate this part in the following sessions, but at the moment you can think that pre-trained phase as university bachelor training. Then you can teach them to make them more specialized for specific tasks. And you don't need to start from scratch, okay? That is very powerful ability. Another aspect, unlike traditional NLP models, large language models employ unsupervised learning techniques. So what does it mean? So traditional ones usually require labeled data. In the bootcamp, you will see that in machine learning and in NLP sessions, we will use some labeled data to perform, for example, sentiment analysis. And we will use labeled data, in other words, supervised learning. However, large language models learn from raw text data without explicit human annotations. It also increases the efficiency of training progress because you don't need to label one by one, and the training data can contain billions of words, so it will be too expensive, right? And last but not least, large language models are not only working with text data, especially the advanced one, the recent ones, like the GPT-4, can work with visual data along with the text. For example, you can give an image and the model can describe the image. Of course, at the moment, multimodal capabilities need to be improved. Okay, until now, we learned that machine learning, deep learning models, and NLP techniques can be used to perform different NLP-based tasks, like sentiment classification. We can understand the sentiment of the statement, of the comment on YouTube or review on the e-commerce website, right? Large language models can do the same thing, can perform the same task, but there are more. And large language models can perform these different tasks at the same time. Let's look at the application fields and check some of the examples. Natural language understanding and generating are obvious, right? Also content creation, question answering, information retrieval, language translation, sentiment analysis, style transfer, personalized recommendations, grammar correction, and more. You can see the application fields are quite broad, and also we can increase them. These are just some examples. Let's look at one by one a couple of them. Summarization. Large language models are quite powerful and successful in this task especially. They can summarize the input text like this. By the way, I generated these examples by ChatGPT. Okay. And here you can see this can be quite helpful. Why? Because maybe you don't have too much time, or you don't want to read all text, all email, all article, but you just want to understand the main point, the main messages from the text. Then you can simply use these large language models. Another example is text generation. Here I just gave 5 different keywords as history, milestone, messy, drone, and Instagram. You can imagine by using these keywords, writing a paragraph is not easy task for even humans, right? Because you need to connect the keywords in a meaningful way, right? It is not easy. But if you look at the example, the output of the ChatGPT, it is quite successful. Try different inputs, give some instructions, and check the result. So text generation is also a very important field in NLP. Another example is language translation, which is quite important. The language translation was actually a challenging task for years. The performance of the Google Translate or similar applications are now excellent, right? However, they are translation applications. For most of them, they cannot understand the message. LLMs can understand the input and perform the language translation task. It's impressive. For example, here you can see my input is translate the following sentences into the most common 5 languages. So I'm not explicitly defining the languages. I'm just saying the most common 5 languages. And the ChatGPT, a large language model, can understand the input and perform the language translation task here. But there's a problem here. You can see Spanish, French, German, Portuguese, Italian. So these are not the 5 most common languages. Maybe they can be the most common in the Europe, but not in the world. Firstly, you should clearly give your instructions. Another lesson, you should verify the outputs. You shouldn't trust without any verification. Then I ask a question, are they the most common languages? Then the answer is better. The most common languages in the world are Mandarin Chinese, Spanish, English, Hindi, and Arabic. And the translations are here. This is so powerful. And large language models are versatile. Okay, they are not only understanding the human languages, such as English, Chinese, but also they can understand the machine languages, coding languages like Python, Java. And you can perform different code-specific tasks. For example, here, my input is generate a Python code which plots two lists. Simple, but you can see in a second, you can get this output. So with one sentence, you can generate a Python code. You can also debug your code and fix it. You can make some code translation task. Or you can create a documentation for the existing code, which is very boring and usually not desired task for the developers. But with large language models, it is easy. There are more actually, and we will see some of them in the hands-on part. But be careful. Large language models are not only text-based applications which can understand and generate text, but as you see here, they can generate code, they can understand the code, which is very important. So you can even create your own website by using these large language models, and you can generate some HTML, CSS, etc. And of course, ChatGPT is not the only one that we have. There are a lot of large language models and their applications, even though they are not very popular for the average users. There are different ones, different sizes, architectures, and different performances from different teams. Okay, let's look at some of them. Here on this map, you can see different large language models names. Okay, GPT-3, Lambda, Jurassic, Palm, Blue, GPT-4, Yalm, Galactica, etc. For example, in Galactica, there are 120 billion parameters. We will not inspect each of them, of course, but also that's not necessary at the moment. But after understanding the fundamentals of GPT models, then you can also search others and understand them, because theoretically they are quite similar. Of course, there are important differences, but they are at the end all large language models. Here we have another figure, large language models family from 2018 to 2023. So only in 5 years, a lot of projects have been developed. Don't try to read each section, each part, but focus on the big picture, okay? Full picture. Firstly, year by year, more advanced large language models are available. And secondly, some of them are open source and some not. Another important point is these models are developed by giant technology companies such as Google, Meta, Microsoft, OpenAI. You can see Hugging Face here. So that is important to consider. Okay. Why? Because, as I said before, large language models need a massive amount of data. And for the training of the complex models, and also for the computational power requirements, and average companies, small startup companies, teams are not able to have this type of, power and the data storage systems, environments. Also here you can see the ChatGPT, okay, in this family. This is the logo of OpenAI. Also we have another GPT models, GPT-G, GPT-Neo, GPT-1, 2, 3, and 4 here. Now we will inspect the GPT models, okay, not all details, but we will see the overview and some important parts. Then we will see more details in the hands-on part, okay. In the hands-on part we will use OpenAI API. So before using that, understanding the overall capabilities of GPT models will be important for us. Okay, what is a GPT? As I said, generative pre-trained transformers models. First of all, let's answer this question. GPT is one of the large language models. In other words, GPT is an advanced language model. As you see in the previous slide, we have different versions, GPT 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3.5. So they are developed by OpenAI, and they can understand and also generate human and machine languages. Deep learning techniques are employed in the architecture. Of course, GPTs are trained with big data, right? The data is important. And transformer architecture, which is a milestone in the AI world actually, and it is used in GPT. We have different GPT models and they can perform multiple tasks. And the most recent one is GPT-4 at the moment. Now let's look at their website. You can directly use this link and check some important points. First of all, we need to have an account. Then we will log in. I have an account, so I will directly click on the login button. But if you don't have any account, then you should firstly sign up, register. You need an email. So this is the home page, the overview screen. You can see there are different menus here: documentation, API reference, examples, and playground. Also, in this dashboard, in this overview, you can see a quick start tutorial. It will directly open the documentation, and the examples will open the examples. So I will not click on this. You can check, you can inspect them. Okay, to build an application, you can use these. So there are quite good examples and descriptions. So I want to start with the documentation. Okay, here you can see we have get started, some guides and some plugins. So overview, what are the key concepts? For example, they explain GPTs, embeddings. In deep learning sessions, you will learn embeddings, but here also they explained briefly. So what are the tokens? These are important terms in this field, right? Also, there are some guides, some tutorials, some important documentations to understand. You can go to quick start and you can see the usage. So how can you write a prompt? What is the completion? Okay, there are some playgrounds also. The interactive is quite good. Some examples, okay, about settings, for example, what is the temperature? We will see all of them. Also, you can use Python Flask, for example, and how can you use this Python Flask to build your own application. So they are all available here. You can see also, you can check the pricing, okay, and the policy. So other tutorials, for example, you can check the libraries, and here you can see Python library OpenAI, so we will use that in the hands-on part. But also there are some other libraries for other languages and okay, tools. You can see for C++, okay, Go, Java, Kotlin, etc. Also, that is important models. Actually, you can see there are different models here, and GPT-4, GPT 3.5, Dolly, for example. Dolly is an actually system that can create realistic images. So it is good. Whisper is for the speech recognition. It's also another interesting model, but we will see GPT-4 and GPT 3.5. And when you click on GPT-4 or GPT 3.5, you can see a simple, brief explanation, description. Then you can see there are different models. They are all GPT-4, but different releases. And for each one, you should check the description. What are the capabilities? What are the limitations? So tokens, training data, date. Okay, you can see they are all up to September 2021. So you can check this information before using the models because these are all important, right? And also the tokens, we know that from deep learning sessions, the tokens are the smallest element of the document. You should be careful about the limitations, right? Limitations when you are designing your application. Okay, you can see here we have different GPT 3.5 models, Turbo, Text DaVinci, okay, Code DaVinci, and other limitations and the dates. So these are important. Okay, you can read. Now I want to show a couple of important points in the slides. Then I will go back here and we will see some examples. Then we will write our own applications.